Greetings, Crocodile Army. I've always found it interesting how many people go through life wearing their belligerence as a point of pride. There are lots of people who relish interpersonal conflict more than they relish meaningful debate. People who are more interested in throwing gasoline than water on a fire are all over the internet, including YouTube, and maybe even especially YouTube. That sort of bravado is very common here, and in many ways encouraged due to the attention-grabbing nature of anger, which is somewhat understandable and not even usually worth complaining about unless it's intensely personal. The core of it is entertainment, after all. I sometimes wonder, though, if some people who watch YouTube a lot get the idea that it's the way to conduct yourself outside the internet. Yeah, but Zaunstar, sometimes you have to raise your voice or stir the pot to effect change. Yes, you're right about speaking up, and I am in no way advocating for keeping silent. I've been making videos for more than 4 years, and I'm not a screamer, but I'm clearly far from silent. Keeping in mind that many of you are interested in discussion and debate, let me be clear that demeanor has almost nothing to do with whether your argument is actually correct, but it will often have a big impact on the effectiveness or persuasiveness of your points, especially in your day-to-day life at work or with friends and family. I definitely consider myself a lifelong learner and observer, and I've observed some things far too many times for me to not pass along. For instance, when you're in the working world, how you choose to approach problems is a big deal and can greatly affect your career trajectory. The difference between being pegged as a chronic complainer or a respected contributor who improves workflow is how you go about bringing problems to the attention of those who can do something about it. Learn what the difference sounds like. It's so annoying that we have to wait for them to do their job first. I just want to smack those incompetent fools. You know, if we could start on the part that doesn't need their input first, we could cut the project timeline by 3 days and save a lot in labor costs. I've seen it more than once in my career where someone was let go in a layoff because they were constantly butting heads with people, even though people who were more reasonable but less skilled were spared the budget axe. While most of you have or will work for a very large company at some point, remember that unless you're a CEO who has a board or shareholders to please, you're only working directly for a very small number of people who are actually aware of your job performance as managers. Many of these people don't have a great passion for helping a giant corporation squeeze a few more dollars of profit out of their operation, but they will have a great passion for making their job less stressful and not having to sort out petty differences between their team members. If something that you propose will do all of those things, then so much the better. Knowing how to pick your battles is key here too. You may be willing to go to the mat for every small detail, but then nobody will know if an issue is really important to you or not, because that's just the way you are. Not caring how many enemies you make will have an impact on your personal life. I'm sure you hear all the time about how karma gets people, right? Someone does bad things to others and then bad things happen to them, and the same thing with good things. Karma is nonsense because it's basically another form of magical reward and punishment, with a little confirmation bias sprinkled in for good measure. But the principle that karma embodies often does work because of something that isn't magical at all. Nearly everyone will make enemies in their lives, but when you make enemies needlessly, you're creating people who are hostile to you, out of those who might otherwise be at least neutral, which maximizes the chances of getting a dagger in your back at the first opportunity. That's the only reason karma works. Many people proudly state that they don't care how they treat people who they have any conflict with, because that's just their personality. I generally find that attitude is about not wanting to take the slightest effort to make things right when an interpersonal situation goes wrong, or not knowing how. Not every situation can be salvaged, but it's often a good idea to make an attempt, because even with no magic required, karma can be a real bitch.